Soul Integration by Rachele. If you are not serious about doing this, but are merely entertaining the idea, then the act of moving your hands above your head becomes a potentiality or possible timeline, but in all likelihood will not become part of your dominant lifetime. In this case, the dominant timeline includes the reality of your hands remaining at your sides. This may seem like a ridiculously simple concept, but all of time operates according to these free will decisions. Of course, we are dealing with collective consciousness as well as individual consciousness. And as you know, there is power in numbers. For example, if a large number of souls on Earth desire world peace, then the energy of world peace goes out into the tapestry of time and space and greatly impacts the nature of the tapestry. When a critical mass is reached, the desire for world peace creates a dominant timeline, and you then have the privilege of experiencing world peace in the outer realms. Various teachers on your planet have found formulas for reaching critical mass. Some say it takes 1.8% of humanity's. Others say the numbers are far less. It depends on the intensity of the desire and level of awareness of those attempting to create a specific timeline. It also depends on whether or not the desire is in alignment with the natural progress of evolution. Actually takes a lot of energy and focus to create, unlike the natural order of creation. Because you're a powerful, creative, spiritual beings created in the image and likeness of your creator, you can create. In this eternal now moment, you are whole, complete, and perfect. You are already enlightened and self-realized. You are a 12-dimensional being living simultaneously in 12 different realities. Of course, from within your human life, it might not look this way. All your physical senses are able to perceive is a tiny portion of the now. To the extent you can step outside your ego/personality and detach from the linear time-space continuum, you can become aware of the vastness of who you are. So to sum up, you are a human being learning how to be a spiritual, enlightened soul, and you are an enlightened spiritual being having a human experience. You are evolving and you are already perfect. You are being and becoming at the same time. From a linear perspective, you are healing the layers of the self that have fallen out of balance. From a non-linear perspective, you are merely removing the veils of illusion that have covered your already perfect self. From a linear perspective, soul evolution is the process of gradually increasing your level of vibration until you're fully aware of your God presence within. From a non-linear perspective, soul evolution is the process of removing all the illusions of separation you have placed between you and your true reality, which is co-creator with God. You might be asking yourself, how does all this fit with the topic of soul integration? All of your past, parallel, and future selves exist in this eternal now moment, and all can be accessed now. When you go back into the past or forward into the future, you have the option of retrieving the energy of your past and future selves and bringing that energy into the present moment. You can embed that energy into the chakras of your present body. For example, if you have a future self that is highly successful in business, you can bring the energy of that business success back into the time to the present and embody that energy, essentially drawing the experience of business success to you. Such a technique is called future timeline linking. When you bring the power and energy of your past, parallel, and future selves into your body now, you create soul integration and you begin to manifest your unlimited potential as a sovereign being. You can see the results of fragmenting yourselves into the past and present and future. Souls who are constantly thinking about the past or future have very little energy available to deal with the present challenges. Worrying about the future does two things. It tends to draw negative experiences to you because that is what you're dwelling on, and it fragments your soul so that part of your soul energy is living in the future you were worrying about. As you move along your path, you will learn to recognize the soul signature of every being you encounter. For now, we ask you to use the litmus test we have given in every one of our books in order to tell the difference between levels of vibration and hence types of beings. Here's the short version. Ask yourself the following questions when in contact with a being or form of consciousness. Does this being or energy support my spiritual growth? Do I feel more alive and aware in the presence of this being or energy? Does this being or energy encourage me to think for myself? Does this being or energy give me the space to move at my own pace? How do I feel after communicating with this being or energy? You can ask that all energies, thought forms, and entities that are perfect and right for you be attracted to and enter into your personal space. Conversely, any energies, thought forms, and entities that are not right and perfect for you can be made to leave your space either temporarily or permanently. The simplest way to call forth the higher self is to visualize a golden light coming down from the heavens and entering into the crown chakra at the top of your head. You can then visualize this golden light moving down through all of the chakras and parts of the physical body, healing, cleansing, and purifying all your cells as it continues to move down into your legs and out through your feet. If you are sitting, you can imagine this energy leaving your body at the base of the spine and entering the earth. To call in your higher self, use the following invocation. I now call forth the love, power, and wisdom of my higher self. Come forth, beloved higher self. The highest level of your higher self is your golden, radiant God presence. While visualizing this golden light, say the following command. I now call forth my golden, radiant God self to flow through every cell in my body. A more structured way to call forth your own higher self is to first go into meditation and begin deep breathing. In light of the vast array of spirits that may vie for your attention, it is important to begin with invoking psychic and spiritual protection. If you're not under imminent attack from negative entities, the best way to invoke protection is to call on God's golden, radiant, loving light to completely fill your being and surround you in an envelope of protection. Once you have thoroughly protected yourself, use the following invocation. I now call forth my benevolent and loving spirit guides. Reveal yourself to me, dear ones. Teach me your love and wisdom. Empower me with your presence. Thank you, beloved spirit guides. Then become quiet and blank your mind, allowing the energies of your guides to come into your awareness. It may take numerous times meditating and invoking before you are aware of your spirit guides. They might come as images forming in your mind. You might hear verbal messages, or you might simply feel a different energy than what you felt before. As a review, let us examine the differences between your ego thoughts and your higher self-consciousness. First, is the thought primarily concerned about your personal life? Does it concern the safety or well-being of your physical body? Does it involve some sort of seeking approval of others? Are you worrying about what other people think? Does the thought generate feelings of fear? Does it invoke a lot of strategizing and planning? Is there uneasiness about the future being triggered by the thought? Does it bring up unpleasant feelings in the body? Does it feel like the thought is trying to convince you of something? Is there a sense that you are clinging to a desirable way of life and refusing to look at things that may threaten that way of life? It is possible for a negative entity to trigger these thoughts in you, but more than likely they are coming from your own subconscious mind or ego. We suggest using a meditation for reprogramming the subconscious mind or technique to call forth your higher self, such as the ones given herein, as a way of minimizing the distractions of your subconscious mind and ego. You can also ask the above questions when learning to determine the difference between a real danger and an imagined one. Ask yourself objectively, is there any merit to the thoughts I am having? Ask for total and complete protection on all levels of your being. I ask God's golden, radiant, loving light to completely and totally protect me in all levels of my being. Then use the following invocation. I now invoke the power and presence of my own higher self. Come forth, beloved higher self. Reveal yourself to me. Share your love, power, and wisdom with me. Thank you, beloved higher self. It is important to keep coming back to the truth that we are powerful, creative, spiritual beings utilizing only a small fraction of our potential. This book will help you understand the nature of your infinitely powerful true being, our souls and spirit, and will answer many questions regarding the nature of your true essence. One note on conventions. Words that are capitalized generally refer to universal ideas that are common to all of us. For example, we are individual souls living as one being. This capitalized term means that we are all expressions of the universal nature. Another example is the use of the word self. If we are referring to individual self or ego of a person, we do not capitalize. But if we're referring to the higher self or larger perspective, we do capitalize. I encourage you to read and reread as many times as necessary each paragraph and chapter until the ideas and concepts are firmly integrated within your consciousness. A word on the difference between soul and spirit. Soul refers to a specific manifestation of divinity, while spirit is a generic term for the intelligent energy of the universe. When referring to souls, who are not on Earth, are soul fragments and discarnate entities. We sometimes use the word spirit as a catch-all phrase. If spirit is capitalized, it refers to the greater intelligence and energy of God. In your scriptures, it states that you were created in the image and likeness of the Creator. It does not go into a lot of details on what the image and likeness is or how you realize that you are already fully endowed with the attributes of the Creator. No, beloved, instead you are set forth on a journey to discover your God self, that eternal, limitless aspect of who you are. This journey starts by immersing yourself in the lower worlds and slowly awakening to your higher nature. You are given free will, which means that you can choose from a nearly infinite variety of possibilities, those lessons you want to learn. You can take your time and move quickly as you desire. Throughout this journey so far, you've experienced great hardship, suffering, pain, and misery. There are many ways to look at these conditions, but the one I would like to impart to you at this time is that of complete self-acceptance. What is done is done. There is no point in continuing to lament the choices you have made. Despite the seemingly endless detours and traps inherent within the lower dimensions, time changes radically as you move back up through the density levels and return to higher consciousness. The curious thing about the illusion of separation is that once you let go of it, it is as though it never happened at all. The seemingly long, endless hours of frustration trying to remember how to use your spiritual gifts of clairvoyance and telepathy, attempting to overcome the perception of powerlessness and helplessness and experience heartbreak after heartbreak in your human relationships, all gets rolled up into a little ball of soul experience. Once you break free of duality, you start to realize that you have just awakened from a very long sleep, and yet only a blink of an eye has gone by from the perspective of the higher realms. In a few seconds of cosmic time, you fell asleep, dreamed that you were alone, lonely and separate on a planet of violence, doom, and despair. But now you realize you were all the time safely embraced in your mother, father's, God's loving arms, even while you slept and dreamed your nightmare of separation. Now that you are waking up, you are attracting books such as this one that helps bring things into proper perspective. You are being reminded of the larger picture of your life as a soul. Your seemingly endless journey through the many worlds and dimensions starts to make sense as you realize the incredible variety of soul experience you have been through and have yet to explore. As the channel mentioned earlier, the soul does not judge. It merely experiences and then retains the lessons of that experience. You have just had the experience of falling into separation and feeling the sensations that come with the denial of your true God self. From a human perspective, this has been terrifying. From a cosmic perspective, it's just a dream of littleness and limitation. Now that you are waking up, a whole new world of experience is opening up to you. You have started reaching out to other souls who are awakening and having various kinds of relationships with them. Instead of falling into the same traps over and over again, you are making a conscious effort to recreate your relationships, to genuinely assist each one of you to grow and evolve. You are no longer wandering, lost, and confused through possessive, jealous, angry connections with each other. This is not an easy process. If it were easy, the whole human race would have woken up a long time ago. Once you let go of your anger towards God and the world and simply accept that the fall was a very difficult experience, you break the energetic link to the trauma associated with forgetting your true self. Your mind wants to understand the how and why of this journey into separation. We do not have an adequate answer for your intellect or ego. Instead, we ask you to simply accept that this is what your soul agreed to experience. The soul is both perfect and imperfect. It enters into various embodiments and levels of experience in order to grow in understanding and awareness. While it does not know everything the way spirit does, it knows enough not to judge what is experienced. Judgment belongs to the realm of ego. Souls want to experience everything without bias or preference, while the ego judges things as good or bad, right or wrong, better or worse. For example, in one lifetime, the soul may desire to know what it is like to oppress people, and so he or she might incarnate into a royal family that has total disregard for the common people. In another lifetime, the soul may desire to experience the opposite polarity, and so incarnates into a family of poverty, struggle, and suffering, being oppressed at the hands of the royal family. This is not a punishment for the sins of oppressing others in a previous lifetime, but merely a desire on the part of the soul for a balanced and full perspective. The soul does not differentiate between right and wrong behavior. However, as souls grow and evolve, they naturally seek out those life experiences that foster love, compassion, and service to others, since these values vibrate at a higher level than fear, judgment, and guilt. An utterly simplistic way of telling how evolved the soul has become is to observe what percentage of his or her life involves expressions of love and compassion versus fear and guilt. The egos of humanity can distort virtually any idea, including this one, thereby constructing an image of God as an angry and vengeful, demanding, obedient. Ultimately, there is no difference between the inner and outer. However, you will not realize this until you are vibrating at level 6 or higher on the density scale. For now, as you peruse these tables, simply imagine there is a direct correlation between each level of density and its corresponding dimension. Once again, do not get hung up on these ideas. While it is useful to have some concept of where you're vibrating, the ego can become obsessed with this and start comparing its level with those of others in order to feel superior or safe. We recommend spending only a minute or so per day focusing on your level of vibration. The following gives the density levels of souls as they evolve from conception to full maturity. Density 1, physical body, survival instinct, awareness of space. 2, emotional body, sexuality, sensation, feeling. 3, mental body, thoughts, beliefs, ideas, programs, ego. 4, astral body, higher mind, energy field, psychic ability. 5, etheric body, love, compassion, service, the light body. 6, causal body, cosmic consciousness, timelessness. 7, the soul, the home level, full abilities restored. 8, the oversoul, first level group soul complex. 9, master oversoul or monad, a vast universal mind. 10, Buddhic or Christic self-awareness of God presence. 11, individual God self, total self-realization. And 12, universal God self, beyond all concept of self. The next table gives the dimensions of the universe, which are roughly the same as the levels of vibration. Note, in some model systems, the first 3 dimensions of the physical universe are contained within the first density. In our model system, first density is described as the physical body, which certainly exists in 3-dimensional space. Therefore, you cannot directly correlate the first 3 dimensions with the first three densities with the first 3 dimensions. Herein lies one of the limitations of your language and symbols and how they are applied to models of reality. Here are the dimensions. Dimension 1, existence, the point, the mineral kingdom. 2, primal awareness, the line, the plant kingdom. 3, spatial awareness, the shape, the animal kingdom. 4, mental planes, astral planes, time, the human kingdom. 5, etheric planes, love, the crystal light body. 6, causal planes, akashic records, radiant light beings. 7, lower celestial planes, angels, ascended beings. 8, middle celestial planes, archangels, ascended masters. 9, upper celestial planes, higher order beings. So to sum up, you are a human being learning how to be a spiritual, enlightened soul, and you're an enlightened spiritual being having a human experience. The emotional body. Probably the most difficult of the lower bodies to heal is the emotional body. This is because emotions tend to be magnetic in nature, and it takes a lot of energy to pull magnets apart. Therefore, if you have negative emotional patterns, they will tend to stay in place unless you put a great deal of effort and attention to healing them. Healing emotions is also tricky because you do not want to dwell on or drown in them. In all our past books, we have mentioned the 2 steps to emotional healing. And for those of you who are new to our work, let us repeat the formula. Here is the short version. You must fully feel, experience, and express your emotions while at the same time remaining detached and viewing them from a higher perspective. Those who are unable to detach will often indulge their emotions and get stuck in them. They might be referred to as drama queens or drama kings. These are the souls that are forever expressing emotions and never resolving them. Woe is me, ain't it awful, life's a bitch, etc. are the favorite refrains of the emotional attached. Being around people like this can be very draining or at very least distracting. The whiny tone of voice, as if everything in life is about trying to resolve something, is a trademark of those who are caught in the web of emotions. There is always a problem to be solved. Never do you witness a day of peace and tranquility. The mind has 3 compartments: subconscious, conscious, and superconscious. The subconscious stores all experiences as memories. It is also responsible for various autonomic functions. Things your body does that do not require conscious attention, such as beating your heart and circulating your blood. The superconscious receives messages from higher dimensions and translates them for the conscious mind. The mind is like an hourglass, with the conscious mind represented by the narrow middle part. It receives information from the subconscious and superconscious continuously, but can only filter and process a small portion of the information at any given time. You can think of the subconscious as the hard drive on a computer and the superconscious as the internet. The conscious mind is like the viewing screen. The core negative beliefs are deeply embedded into the subconscious mind of most human souls. One technique for reprogramming is to turn them around into positive affirmations. You can say the following, but even more powerful is to receive them as auto-suggestions during hypnotherapy. Positive affirmations that counteract the core negative beliefs might include the following. I am beautiful, capable, lovable. I am whole and complete. I am a powerful, creative, spiritual body. I love everything about myself. I deserve to be happy, healthy, and prosperous. I am safe in my higher self. I live in an abundant universe. There is enough love for everyone, including me. I am doing what I love and getting well paid for doing it. In addition to practicing the exercises given in chapter 4, we suggest you read the books that came before this one to get a more complete picture of the mind and how it works. Let us now move on to the astral body. The astral body. In this channel's model system, the astral body is differentiated from the etheric body. Think of astral as roughly equivalent in vibration to the physical plane, but with aspects above and below the physical vibration. The etheric body, on the other hand, is at a higher vibration than the physical. The astral body looks like a fiber optic network of light filaments stretching out in all directions from the physical body and connecting to every other life form in the universe. Seeing the astral body is proof that we are all connected. You reach a point in your evolution where you learn to ascend spiritually, going into the celestial planes after your earthly incarnation and evaluating whether or not you want to come back to Earth voluntarily. In most cases, you choose to come back because you see your loved ones suffering and uncertain where to go or what to do. You know that you were needed to help bring light to a world still mostly in the darkness. If you are reading this, chances are you came back to Earth voluntarily to assist souls in awakening from the dream of duality. In fact, most of you are what is termed starseeds. This means you have had the majority of your incarnations in other worlds in various levels and dimensions and already know all about peace, prosperity, and joy. After all, you have spent a lot of time in worlds free of war and suffering. You're now here on Earth to bring the knowledge and wisdom of how to live in harmony to a struggling humanity. Your first priority is soul integration because you know that a whole, complete, integrated soul is all-powerful, all-wise, and all-knowing. You know that your light is vast and magnificent and can change the world. Ultimately, there are no actual deadlines for getting with your soul's program. However, some souls might go millions of years without making much progress. If that happens, the higher self and soul family members usually call for an evaluation of such a soul to determine if an intervention is necessary. Only in rare cases does intervention prove to be fruitless, and then it is possible for the Godhead to make the decision to return the soul to the pre-emergent state, a process often called the soul second death. Very few souls actually go through this process because in essence, it means starting soul evolution all over again from the beginning. For this to happen, almost all of the levels of the self must be in agreement that this is the best option. Of course, the ego/personality of the soul who is not evolving will likely be unconscious of this decision made by all the other aspects. We anticipate none of the souls reading this book will go through the second death, nor any of the souls they know in their lives. So we do not need to go into any further into this topic. How do you access the Akashic records? Like most techniques for acquiring knowledge, you ask. You might use the following while deep in meditation. I now invoke the knowledge and wisdom of the Akashic records. I now attune myself to the frequency of the Akashic. Free will has its limits. If you seek to do something that is fundamentally out of alignment with your soul purpose, intervention may be called on the part of your higher self and soul family. This also depends on how far along you are in your evolutionary process. You may have made an agreement with your aspects in the higher realms, as well as your soul family and spirit guides, to intervene if you try to do something that is destructive or counterproductive to your soul growth. Because you've made a free will decision to act for intervention, it will be granted. This does not mean that your friends in the higher realms will save you from yourself. It just means that they will take a more active role to help prevent you from injuring yourself or others. Getting back to the Akashic records, you might visualize them as a series of glowing colored discs in a large library on a distant planet, or as a repository of light in a large temple in the higher planes. These records are stored as energy packets or little filaments of light that form a crystalline grid system or geometric pattern in the causal planes. On Earth, there is a localized version of the Akashic records underneath the Great Pyramid of Giza, Egypt, in the etheric realms. Physically, this place just looks like an empty passageway located quite a bit below the ground level of the pyramid. Reclaiming lost soul fragments. The key to soul integration is to reclaim your lost soul fragments. This means becoming aware of all the traumatic experiences you have ever had in this lifetime or in past lifetimes. Before you throw your hands up in despair over what seems like an impossible task, let us assure you that the vast majority of experience you have had will have worked themselves out by the time you read this. You would not have gotten this far along your soul path if you were hopelessly stuck in negativity. Nevertheless, we began this book with a look at original cause because that is where a good majority of the negative patterns began. The best techniques for reclaiming your soul fragments do not require years of psychoanalysis or constant rehashing of old experiences. Some therapists maintain you do not need to go back to the past at all. We disagree. However, in keeping with the formula for emotional healing, there is a need for detachment at the same time that you're re-examining past traumas. Most of the techniques given herein are designed to keep you in your higher self while making changes to your lower bodies. This will help ensure that you do not get tangled in the web of drama associated with many of your past experiences. Your God presence is with you at all times and will assist you in effective healing without the need to relive traumas in the way they were first experienced. We will begin with one of the simplest and fastest ways to reclaim your lost fragments. This technique can be practiced anytime and anywhere for a few minutes to a half an hour. The best forgiveness and relief. The best way we have to reclaim lost soul fragments is through forgiveness and release work. It is important to understand what forgiveness actually is. First of all, it is not the same as pardon. It is also not about pretending something is okay when it is not, nor is it about putting on a happy face and convincing yourself that you are transcended negative feelings when they are still lurking beneath the surface. Before you can truly forgive, you must acknowledge your thoughts and feelings, and in some cases, go deeply into an energy pattern that needs healing. With emotional clearing, you need to fully feel, experience, and express your feelings while at the same time becoming detached from them. You must view them from a higher perspective. Forgiveness is similar in that you must be present to all the feelings within before you can truly forgive. Forgiveness happens when you recognize that in the larger scheme of things, whatever grievances or resentments you have are essentially meaningless. 50 years from now, will you remember the loan that did not get paid back, or the spouse that went off with another partner, or the teacher that let you down? In Lord Sanananda's teaching, specifically A Course in Miracles, he states that forgiveness is the key to happiness. He also advises you to only remember the loving things you and others have done. This is excellent advice. But in order to reach this state of consciousness, you must remain aware of your higher self and true nature. You cannot suffer attack or assault if you are coming from the perspective of your higher self. Of course, it is possible to damage the body or prevent it from being independent, but other than that, there is nothing that can actually harm you unless you believe there is. You choose moment by moment what is of value to you and what is not. If you are attached to your self-image and it matters greatly what other people think of you, then you will have a hard time forgiving when someone slanders you or speaks unkindly of something you did. Forgiveness involves an energetic release. To help you forgive, we recommend beginning with the following process involving other souls. Keep in mind that this is for you. We're not trying to make anyone else change. Nevertheless, by sending them love and compassion instead of anger, resentment, you open the space for them to change. Standard forgiveness process to others. Take several deep breaths and close your eyes, sinking gently into meditation. First, think of all the people in your life that you might still need to forgive. Visualize each person you have known or know now, or that is in your life in some way. Pay attention to the feelings and energy patterns in your body as you imagine each one standing in front of you. If you feel nothing but unconditional love as you connect with each person in this way, then you do not need to forgive that person. But if you feel uncomfortable, sad, regretful, irritated, or even just relieved that the person is no longer in your life, then you still need to forgive. Assemble the people that bring up feelings other than unconditional love. Imagine they are standing or sitting in a semicircle in front of you. One at a time, imagine saying all the things you've held back, saying to these people. Use a form such as, something I have been holding back from you is ... or something I have always wanted to say to you is ... The persons in front of you cannot talk back and cannot turn away. They can only give you their full undivided attention. They are totally and completely receiving you as you express your withholds. We realize that in real life, most of these souls would not behave in this manner, but for the sake of this process, they are being quiet and respectful, not rolling their eyes or squirming to get away or preparing and rehearsing their side of the story. This process is for you, not them, although it might benefit some of them, whether or not they are aware that you are forgiving them. Take a few minutes with each person until you feel you have expressed everything you have held back saying to them in the past. It matters not whether these souls are still in your life, have moved on, or left the earth plane. An example of this process might look like the following. Here, a son is speaking to his father. I forgive you, Dad, for the way you treated me when I was growing up. I forgive you for getting angry with me when I did not get perfect grades in school. I forgive you for divorcing my mom and taking up with another woman, etc. Once you have emptied out all the things that you feel need to be said, imagine a golden, radiant, loving light coming down from the heavens and filling the people in front of you from head to toe. See each one radiant with this golden light. See them encased in an envelope of light. Now say to each one slowly and carefully, I forgive and release you completely. You are free to go to the light. I forgive and release you completely now. You're free to go to the light. I forgive and release you completely now. You are free to go to the light. Say this several times. Next, imagine reaching down underneath them one at a time and lifting them up into this column of golden, radiant, loving light, and then releasing them like a hot air balloon. Watch them floating up into this column of light until they disappear into the heart of God. If it is in your intention that they no longer are part of your physical life, then you may choose to wave goodbye to them as they ascend into the light. If you are forgiving someone who is in your life daily, doing this process will not kick this person out of your life, but it will remove emotional attachments, negative karma, and psychic cords or hooks. In a moment, we will do an even deeper process that will involve soul fragments you might have taken on from others or that others may have taken on from you. Standard forgiveness process, self with soul retrieval. Take several deep breaths and feel yourself gently entering meditation. Close your eyes. Take several deep breaths. Feel yourself gently entering meditation. Imagine yourself standing on a stage in a theater. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of souls in the audience. There is a soft, golden spotlight shining on you. You are in the center of the stage. This place is constructed in an amphitheater style with the seats rising up in all directions from the stage. The stage is slowly rotating like a theater in the round. The people in the audience consist of everyone you have ever known in this lifetime or in any of your past lifetimes. In essence, everyone who has ever affected you energetically is in the audience. Some of them you will recognize immediately. Others you will not remember since it was too long ago when you knew each other. They are all clapping and cheering for you as you stand in the center of the stage. A column of golden light is descending from the heavens and coming down into the theater and into your body. As you stand there in front of everyone, slowly begin saying the following. I forgive and release myself completely now. I am free to go to the light. I forgive and release myself completely now. I am free to go to the light. As you continue to say this over and over, feel the column of golden light entering and filling your body from head to toe. Feel it healing, cleansing, and purifying every cell in your body, returning you to the perfect radiant self that you've always been and always are. As the light moves down through your body, healing organs and systems as it goes, notice if there are some spots that feel blocked or feel like perhaps they are not your own energy. These are the fragments of other souls that you have taken up. These soul fragments look like shards of crystal, shiny and radiant, but irregular and broken, like pieces of a crystal chandelier that has fallen and shattered. Imagine a ribbon of golden light extending out from your body and reaching into the audience. This ribbon stops when it reaches the audience member to whom the first fragment belongs. Now imagine several ribbons going out in different directions to various audience members. One by one, see the fragments leaving your body, attaching themselves to the ribbons of light and floating up from your body into the audience. See the fragments returning to their rightful owners and filling their bodies. As the fragments return to their owners, you start to feel an emptiness inside, as though your body is like Swiss cheese, full of holes. Now it is time to reclaim your fragments. Imagine another set of golden ribbons extending from members of the audience to you. Coming to you now are pieces of crystal that represent your soul fragments coming back to you. As each one reaches you, it embeds itself in one of the holes, and you begin feeling whole and complete once again. As your fragments return to you from members of the audience, you start feeling stronger and lighter. Eventually, you are so light your feet are barely touching the stage. Very soon, you begin to float up off the stage and are ascending through a hole in the roof of the theater up into the heavens. As you look down, you can see and hear everyone clapping and cheering for you. Now, you're rising up into the heavens until you find yourself in God's loving arms. You are slowly being rocked back and forth, feeling the deep peace of God descending over you. God's love is penetrating deep into your soul. There is nothing to do, nowhere to go, but to be right here, right now, in this timeless place of peace. Remain here for several minutes before gently returning to your body on earth and opening your eyes. Other soul retrieval techniques. Many aspects of your soul have become fragmented off from the parent part through the act of denial. This denial was either conscious or unconscious. The simplest form of denial involves making something or someone wrong through a process of judgment. Most souls on earth turn judgment inward onto the self. Once you have judged an aspect of yourself to be bad or wrong, then you try to escape from that part by either pretending it does not exist or trying to forcefully banish it. In some cases, you might also project it onto others, trying in vain to disown it or give the responsibility of it to someone else. Karma versus the law of attraction. We mentioned back in chapter 1 the differences between karma and the law of attraction. Keep in mind that if you're continually attracting karmic relationships, it may be because you have a lot of unresolved guilt or judgment that you have not released. This is especially true if others are constantly trying to obligate you to things that you do not want, such as a codependent relationship with taking care of people financially. Giving and receiving in balance. Charity, selflessness, and generosity are attributes that spring naturally from a soul when he or she has learned love and compassion. There should not be any feelings of coercion or pressure to prove how kind and loving you are. It is not a beneficial choice to remain in one-sided relationships because you feel obligated to give. And it is not more desirable or spiritual if you're constantly bailing out people emotionally or financially. If you find yourself frequently rescuing someone in one form or another, you probably have guilt and self-judgment about what it is to be spiritual. If giving does not feel good, do not do it. Love and accept yourself, even if you feel burnt out and resentful about someone who's constantly begging for attention. This is not just about romantic relationships that can apply to your children or to aging parents who need physical care or anyone in need. You do not accrue karma for taking care of your own needs. There is no cosmic scorecard keeping track of how much money you give to charity or how much time you volunteer at the local food bank. If you tune into yourself daily, you will learn to find a balance between giving and receiving. Eventually, it will become obvious that they are part and parcel of the same movement of energy. Know that giving and receiving are more than just physical acts. When you share your ideas and visions for the new golden age, and allow others to share their visions with you, you are contributing directly to the betterment of humanity. Also know that your ability to receive love and compassion from others gives them the opportunity to give, which in many cases takes them out of self-preoccupation and self-pity. Future timeline linking. In reverse timeline healing, you go back into the past to connect with a time when you felt happy, powerful, and successful. You then bring that energy forward in time to the present and radiate it into the world. In future timeline linking, you connect with your happy, powerful, successful self in the future when the goals and objectives of a specific intention have already been accomplished. As soon as you set a goal firmly in mind, you create a probable timeline that includes the manifestation of that goal. This is based on the uncertainty principle of quantum physics. Before setting the goal, there are an infinite number of possible and probable timelines, but as soon as you focus on the goal, the future collapses into a single dominant timeline, with many alternatives and variations spinning off because of your ability to change your mind later. In future timeline linking, you establish a relationship with your future self, and he or she becomes your spirit guide regarding the project you're working on. You consult your future self periodically to adjust your actions and decisions accordingly. In other words, you ask your future self, what did you do to get to where you are? He or she will then advise you on specific steps to take to manifest your goals. Most souls have dozens, if not hundreds, of traumatic experiences accumulated over hundreds, if not thousands of lifetimes. It is unrealistic to expect everything to be healed in one timeline healing session. However, there are streamlined approaches to timeline healing that can affect a large number of traumatic events within a given lifetime, or a large number of traumatic lifetimes along a given stretch of soul evolution. Whenever this channel initiates a timeline healing session, you ask that the lifetimes with the greatest amount of trauma be the ones revealed first, so that the maximum amount of healing can occur. If there are several incidents of trauma within a given lifetime, the healing can be spread along the client's timeline like a string of pearls. Each pearl is a golden light healing occurring at the moment of or just prior to a traumatic event. For example, if you were abused as a child and there were 18 incidents of abuse, the healing will be spread across 18 different places in your timeline. Although the string of pearls technique does not go as deep as a regular timeline healing, it can greatly speed up the healing process if there are a lot of traumatic events in one lifetime. Self-awareness suggests you simply notice the reaction and then choose to return to pure observation. This form of enlightenment leads to the so-called more desirable forms because it breaks the cycle of illusion. Illusions are dispelled when they are brought to light. Pure observation brings all that is hidden out into light to be revealed for what it is, mostly nothing in the grand scheme of things. The biggest barrier to enlightenment is the overreaction of the mind to perceived dangers and the ego's insistence that you need more and more of this and less of that before you can become happy. In fact, noticing the self-image and how it distorts reality is part of self-awareness. One teacher calls the ego the needy little me. If you were to voice its concerns, you might say, I am never enough. I must always strive to be more and more, better and better. Nothing I do measures up. I cannot rest and relax because there is always something more to do. The chores are not done. The bills are not paid. How can I possibly relax? Biggest barrier to enlightenment is the overreaction of the mind to perceived dangers and the ego's insistence that you need more and more of this and less of that before you can be happy. How can I possibly relax when I have so many problems in my relationship? What if the neighbor starts running the leaf blower again? On and on it goes, chasing its tail until self-awareness finally puts it in its place. Remember, you must observe the unenlightened self without judgment. Trying to make it go away or condemning or evaluating it as bad or wrong keeps you in the vicious cycle. Simply notice, watch, and follow its antics without getting caught up in the dynamics or drama of it. As you continue to practice self-observation, it will eventually get easier to stay detached from the ego and its musings. Then at some point, you might be able to enter into one of the other states of consciousness associated with enlightenment. As you continue to observe without judgment, all the various twists and turns in your emotions and thought processes. So how does becoming one with God work when a soul is engaged in worldly activities? One of the characteristics of someone who is in a God-conscious state is that he or she sees God in everyone and everything. There is no longer any make, wrong, or judgment. The God-conscious soul takes delight in every person, place, or thing and sees the inherent beauty in everything. The ego, with its bodily needs and preservation instincts, is quiet. The focus is on what is actually taking place around and within the soul. There is no interpretation or evaluation involved. A God-conscious soul may be an outer teacher or may stay in a very private realm, depending on what he or she is guided to do. But every person the soul meets becomes part of a divine encounter, a sacred meeting, an opportunity for merging in oneness. There will be a natural and easy form of communication present, if need be, that does not depend on identification with the ego. This is because everything is coming from the perception of union. There is no separation. Out of this state, a natural loving compassion is born. Souls in this divine state of grace will naturally be giving and considerate of others. Without trying too hard to be spiritual, there's nothing to prove and nothing to achieve, but to simply act spontaneously in ways that increase the divine grace of being.